Hello, beautiful beings, and welcome to your voice note head noise episode of today. So this is where we listen to your voice notes, which is so exciting because I love hearing the beans' voices. And I feel like it's kind of just more like a little, I don't know, it feels like more of a conversation when I get to hear your voices. Obviously, I get the need for the emails as well, which I love so much. And, you know, you can probably put more down in an email, but I do love hearing your voices. So let's get straight into it. I'm not going to fuck around. I want to get through 4 today. So let us begin.
Alexis fucking Fernandez, you are a boss, a legend. Thank you for everything that you do. Coming at you from the States, and I have a quick question about what's the difference between a strong communicator and veering on codependency? Because I'm in this new relationship about 2-3 months, and wanting to text every day and like just a lot of constant communication, whereas like I do a lot of the practices where I protect my mornings. I'm not really looking at my phone, and so I'm trying to adjust, be a good partner, but also kind of like, ooh, yellow flag. I don't know. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that piece, and how can I show up best for my partner when, I'm somebody who thrives on being alone and being independent, but they are a little bit more of a constant communicator all the time. And I just want to make sure I don't do any of that codependency stuff. So thank you for everything, and I look forward to your answer.
Firstly, love the hype that you've given me at the start of this. Love it. Great question. I'm very aligned with you, actually, in that regard, that especially with texting, I feel like you might be the same in the sense that for me, it's just quality over quantity. I could gladly text someone twice in a day and have a really good meetup with them later on than a need to text them all day long. Like, to me, personally, I don't see the value in texting all day long because I also love my independence and I'm always doing shit. But other people are like, what do you mean? I need to be texting them at least. So everyone's different. There's no right or wrong, as long as you can both find like a happy middle ground. Okay. So I think, the main thing is strong communication. It always comes down to, are we communicating our needs with each other properly? Because with codependency, it's that's where you're slipping into where kind of everything has to be done together, where you're relying on each other to form, an identity as an individual. It's like almost like your identity gets enmeshed with your partner's identity. So it's people that have the joint Instagram account, which is fucking crazy. I mean, no judgment, even though I did just judge, but whatever. It's like that, like intense level of like everything we do is together, versus you really are needy for my communication. I feel like I'm not giving enough. So one person feels needy to the other person, and the other person feels kind of a little bit left, like rejected, or like bottom of the barrel, kind of like you're the last person you think about when you wake up, kind of thing. So you don't want to be feeling that way on either end. You don't want to feel like your partner's needy, and you don't want your partner to feel like you are ignoring them or you don't prioritize them. So what I would do is, again, as always, have a conversation with your partner and say, what are the things you value the most, with how we communicate when we're not seeing each other? Because we come from different things, and I know that some people are really they're really prolific texters, and for me personally, I don't like really being on my phone too much in the morning. I also don't like texting all the time, and I also don't like feeling like if I don't reply straight away, then I'm ignoring you. Like one day I was having a conversation with someone, and they said, well, people have their phones on them all the time, and if you can't just reply in the moment, then you're being rude. And I was like, well, I strongly disagree with that sentiment, because that would mean that your text message is more important than anything else that I've got going on in that moment. And it's not, no offense, but it's not. Like if I'm focusing on a task, if I'm doing a good brainstorm, if I'm writing a book, and a text comes through, I don't have to drop everything to reply to that text. Your message is not important than some important task that I might be working on. Sometimes I can reply immediately, and sometimes I can't. And it doesn't so this is where it's really interesting to have these conversations, because from this person's perspective that I was talking to, she was like, it's just rude, it's just rude. So if I never replied straight away, she'd be like, Alexis is being rude. And if I didn't then voice how I felt about it, then she would have never gotten my perspective and being like, oh, I guess that makes sense if you're like, for whatever reason. So it always comes down to communication with what is your perspective. You ask your partner, if I don't reply straight away, how does that make you feel? Do you instinctively think, oh, they must be busy, they're doing something? Or do you think, why aren't they replying? They've obviously got their phone on them. Are they being you want insight into your partner's head and how they operate, and you want to offer insight into how you operate so your partner gets you better. So, for example, you could say, for me, I could text 3 times in the whole day and then have a really great call in the afternoon, or see you, we catch up for a wine, we get to, and that to me is so much better than texting each other random stuff all day long. But if you like texting all day long, and if that brings you so much value, then I could probably up my 2 text messages maybe to 5. That's we're compromising here. We want to make each other feel loved, but I'm also not going to meet you where you want to be met with 20 text messages, because I'm going to fucking resent you, and then this will end, right? So it's kind of I could maybe text you a little bit more. Maybe even though I don't want to be on my phone, maybe the first thing I can do, I wake up and I'm not going on the apps, I'm not doing anything, but I send a message to my partner who I'm really into, and I say, hope you had a really nice sleep, thinking of you, whatever. So that way, bang, you're like, I've woken up, I am actually thinking of you. I'll send you a text message to let you know that, and then I'll call you later on. That kind of thing. So it's I can do that. I can give that. And then I've got my morning to myself. I've got my independent morning to myself. And my partner knows that in the first hour of the day, I don't want to be texting back and forth. I've got my meditation or my walk or my workout or my routines, and I don't want to be on my phone. So it's this is all down to communication. And then what are your partner's needs and why? Because if your partner says, no, I need you to text me all day long every day. Why? Because that's how I feel validated. Why? Is there other ways that you could feel validated? Is there ways that you could, because you've got to start to realize that, what makes you feel validated is not necessarily what makes the other person feel validated. And a good relationship is ones that understand how each other gives and receives love, and trying your best to meet in the middle here. So for you, it just comes down to a really good conversation, because it feels like you have good communication skills. So you just need to relay that information with your partner and say, I notice that this is what you like. Fair enough. This is kind of where I'm comfortable with. What would be a good middle ground for both of us? What would be a good middle ground so I still love my mornings and I still feel like it's my alone time in the mornings, and that you have this, you also feel like you're really you feel loved in the morning, and you feel that that you're validated by this relationship in the morning, and it feels nice. You also don't want them waking up being like, oh, my partner didn't. If you know that they're going to wake up being like, oh, how nice, I got this message, then you'd want to do that, because you obviously want them to be happy, okay? So it's these little things of how we're going to meet in the middle, and where are there things that I just have to accept. There's going to be certain things that your partner just has to accept, that you're not a big texter. And, maybe you also don't like being on the phone eternally. Maybe you're like, love you so much, whatever. I said, Tyrone and I, when we talk on the phone, we never have conversations on the phone unless we're actually not in the same city. If he's away for work or I'm away for work, then of course we're going to have debrief conversations over the phone. But throughout the day, we're calling to be like, hey, what are you doing now? What are your next steps? Am I going to see you? Oh, I need to go shopping. I need to pick up this stuff. It's logistics, right? Because then we'd rather actually just talk in person. So, but I've had relationships in the past where if I'm trying to get off the phone, they're getting offended. They're like, well, where do you need to be that's more important than being on the phone? They really look at it as a personal stab. So you need to ask your partner, where do you stand on this kind of communication outside of when we see each other? Because quality over quantity for you and me, but maybe your partner doesn't feel that way. And if your partner is a quantity over quality, then you need to find a middle ground where everyone is happy. And that requires an in-depth conversation. But great question. Thank you. Next one, country versus city is the title of this one.
Hey, Alexis. I would love your advice on a bit of a personal dilemma I've got at the moment about my current partner. So we've been together for 2 years. He's incredible, an absolutely amazing relationship. Very certain that he's my person. And we're just currently hitting a bit of a crossroads when it comes to our future, because he grew up on a farm in rural New South Wales. He wants to eventually buy land and settle down somewhere rural by the time he's 40, which is in about 15 years. Whereas I grew up in suburban Sydney. I'm very much a city girl. I love that lifestyle, the career opportunities, the energy, the social aspects, like just having the independence and the autonomy to make decisions on the fly and that kind of thing. And I'm just very worried that I wouldn't be happy, I wouldn't be fulfilled living remotely, and I just feel like it's going to be very limiting for me. And I just don't know how I should be thinking about this or approaching this when it's so far in the future, but it's obviously, something that we should be thinking about. And I just don't know whether this is going to become a deal breaker. Like, how should I kind of approach this? Any thoughts, advice you have on how we can maybe navigate this together? Love you, love your podcast. Thank you so much. Would really appreciate any advice you have. Thanks.
Yeah, this is a really difficult thing that you're in, and I love this question because it's a hard situation that you're in. And I guess what's so hard about it is it's very easy to sweep under the rug because you're like, oh, it's 15 years down the line. It's like it's a while away. So you can keep ignoring. But at the end of the day, if this is something that he's not kidding about, like he is dead set on this is where he grew up. It's not like, there's people that like grow up in the city and they're like, oh, I'd love to fucking live in the, like this guy is from that, like he knows, like this is for me. I'm from the country. You can't get the country out of me and I will be going back. Like this is one of those things that he's like, I'm sure of this. And if he's not fucking around and if he's dead serious, then you have to look at it as an eventual kind of ticking time bomb. Like it's going to happen. I'm taking it for face value. I believe him. And he's probably not going to change his mind because he just loves it so much and he wants to return back to his roots. Okay? So we're going to take it for face value. In 15 years, he is moving to the country. You then have to ask yourself, like, mind you, I agree with you. I would not move to the country either because I'm so well connected and my community and I love the Sydney life as well and I'm so satisfied and everything you've said I agree with 100%. So I would not go. But what do you do as far as a relationship, especially when it's 15 years down the line? And then you've got to layer on top of that. Firstly, do you want kids? Secondly, are you planning on having kids with him? What would that look like if you did? How would that influence your decisions as a family? There's so many layers. And I feel like this is something that needs to be discussed, obviously with him, but you need to have these deep conversations of if we did have kids, would that then mean that we would stay here? Or would that mean that you would want to go to the country earlier? Do you want kids to be raised in the country? Or not? Do you want kids? Full stop. All these questions that we need to start to analyze and address and get their perspective on, because if someone is being dead honest with where they see their future going, and I know that people change their mind and all of that, but if they're being dead honest, then it's kind of not something you can ignore. It's not something that you want to brush under the rug, because then you fall so deeply in love with this person, you build a life together, it gets to the 40-year mark, they're like, I told you I'm doing this, I'm fucking doing this, we're going to the country. Then they go to the country and then you go and you don't like it, or you like aspects of it but you feel completely isolated. You feel like you don't have your community, your career opportunities are not what they used to be, and you're unhappy. And then you resent him. Or he stays wishing he could always live somewhere else and then he resents you. You never want to be, if avoidable, you want to avoid being in a position where someone is resenting the other person for forcing them to live a life that they don't want to live. So I guess, you could be talking to him about this and saying what does this look like for you, knowing that I never want to live in the country and you don't see yourself living in the city long term. We ultimately met here in the city, so this is our default. But that doesn't mean that you then have to live your life here by default. Everyone should also have the choices. But of course for you, it's easier to be I'm just going to stay because this is where we met. And this is my belief for what our life would be like. But you got to ask him, would you go if it meant that we, that would be a different chapter and I wouldn't be in your life anymore? Would you go if you had children? Would you go? And if he's saying, yeah, look, this is just where my future is and I'm going to go regardless, then you kind of have your answer and you've got to decide, am I going to bite the bullet this early on because I believe that he's never going to change his mind? Or am I going to hope that things just evolve and change in the way that I want them to, and I'm willing to take that risk and therefore stay with him? Because, like, how much are you willing to risk it? Because I can guarantee you, like, if it gets too far on and he's so hell-bent on moving, you probably will end up going with him because you don't want to leave him. But then you might find yourself living in a place that you're like, I'm so fucking isolated, and then I'm going to leave him and be so unhappy. And then what if we have kids? And then it's so layered and so complicated. So I feel like, what would I do in that situation? It's really fucking hard. Based on if I had all the conversations under the sun, and if, we wanted kids together, and if he still wanted to go, the kids would be young then. So then I would kind of maybe not stay in the relationship if I was so hell-bent that I'm never moving to the country, if I didn't see any flexibility whatsoever. But I don't want that to be your final response. I want you to be able to have these conversations with him and be like, what would it look like with kids? What would it look like without kids? What would it look like if I went with you and hated it and wanted to come home? Would you be flexible on that, or would you be like, see you later? What would it look like if I just refused to go? Would you leave me and go? Because that's also a valid answer if that's really where you want to be in your life. Like, what would that look like, and who's leaving who? Yeah, but that's a really hard one. So I'm glad you wrote in, because I think it's something that is like, it needs a lot of food for thought. All right, third one.
Hey Alexis, hope you're well. I just want to say thank you so much for this potty. I absolutely fucking love it. I've been a listener for the last 4 or 5 years, and you've helped me become the most confident, free version of myself. So I'm so grateful for that. My question today is, basically, I've been traveling for almost 2 years now. I left Australia at the end of 2023, and it's now obviously mid-2025. So I've done everything from working holidays to backpacking around. I'm currently in Spain, doing the summer season in Ibiza over here. So I've done it all. I've seen a lot, but I guess my question is, I just don't know when to go home. I don't know if it's time. Obviously, you have your good days and your bad days while you're overseas. Some of my bad days, I want to book a flight. I miss my family so incredibly much. I'm so homesick from Australia. And other days, I just absolutely never want to come home, and I want to keep on exploring and seeing new places and traveling around. So I feel like I'm just trying to seek some advice as to, when will I ever know it's time to go home? When do I go home? Do I keep on resisting it? Because I feel like, I know I'm definitely resisting going home for whatever reason that is. I've tried to unpack that. And I feel like it's because when I go home, I have this envision that I'm going to have this amount of money and be able to get straight into my career and, buy a new car and buy a new house. Well, not so much buy a house, but, have somewhere to live. And if I go home at this stage, it's obviously not going to be like that. I'm going to be moving back in with my parents and my family home, which sounds very exciting, but I know it's just going to feel like such a back step after being so incredibly independent for the last 2 years. And during this time, I've been single. So I've been single for many years. So I've done this whole journey completely on my own, which has been absolutely incredible. But yeah, I think also when I get home, I know I'm going to be I feel like I'm going to be quite depressed after all this, and then just being straight back into my hometown. So I guess some advice to navigate that would be really appreciated. And yeah, just to kind of have a bit more direction as to when do I really need to listen in and just book the flights home, or, that day will obviously come. Do I just wait until then? I don't know. My brain's a bit of a scramble with it all at the moment. But yeah, if you have any advice regarding that would be very appreciated. Thank you so much. Bye.
Oh my God. Great question. There's a bunch of things that I can say here. The first thing is, if you're not ready to leave yet, just stay there. Honestly, stay there. And the reason I say this is because this is a very unique time in your life. And if you're still getting something out of it, if you are still enjoying yourself there, then I I wouldn't rush coming home, because when you come home, you're going to realize that not much has changed. And this is the general consensus that I hear from people that I'm very close with, from people that have written in, from people that have whatever, home doesn't change that much. It changes, but it's quite slow when things do change. Everything's kind of the same. And the main thing that I hear when people come back being like, oh my God, and then they get home and within a week they're like, oh, it's kind of exactly where I left off. Nothing's really different. I kind of wish I hadn't left. So if there's still a part of you that's like, I mean, you're in Ibiza in summer right now in Spain. I'm like, get me there immediately. I'm living through you. I can hear people laughing in the sun in the background. I'm guessing it's in the sun. But I'm like, epic. If you're enjoying it, just do it. Do it while you love it, okay? You don't want to resent it. You don't want to end up hating it. But if you're like, nah, I'm still milking, of course you're going to miss home. That's natural and normal. But if you're getting to milk it, you've got to put yourself in the shoes of yourself in 10 years' time, when you're probably this fully fledged career woman back in Australia, whatever. Ask yourself, would I wish I stayed another year, another season, another 6 months, or not? And most of the time you're going to be like, nah, fuck it. Once I'm already settled back home and really setting some roots, I probably would have stayed longer. When I look back at my time in Paris, I would have stayed longer, and which is a nice feeling to have. But I also, it's also and then COVID, all these other things happen. So a lot of things were not in my control. But if I had the chance, because now I'm really, my roots are getting so rooted in, it's not even fucking funny anymore. I'm about to birth some fucking children, right? So it's then I look back at the times where it's total independence. And I'm telling you right now, milk it for what it is worth. Next, so that's one thing. If you can and if you love it, I'm telling you right now, maximize this fucking time. Because I'm guessing, I didn't get your age, but I'm guessing you're in your 20s. This is the time. This is the fucking time, okay? And then when you're in your 30s, then you start to build the career and this and that. There's just so many other eras of your life to come ahead of you where you're more grounded and when you're laying roots down and when you're in one spot, exactly what you had said, all the things you listed off. And that's not emergency. It doesn't have to happen right now. So stay. In a nutshell, stay. If you like it, stay. The next thing that I want you to wrap your head around, and so this is what my best friend lived in. She lived overseas for 7 years. She lived in Dubai for 3, and then she lived in London for 4, or maybe it was 4 and 3, something like that. And she had the fucking time of her life. And then she came back and moved back close to home, back to Queensland. And she was like, I'm depressed. So exactly what you're fearing is kind of what she was going through. She was like, oh, I'm not happy. I'm not this, I'm not that. But then she thought, look, I'm not going to go back to London. But what am I going to do that can get me excited again about where my career is at, where my life is at, where I'm heading? So she moved to Sydney. And for her, that was exactly what she needed. Everyone's going to have different things. Everyone's going to have different needs. But maybe for you, when you do make the decision to come home, because you're like, I'm ready to start focusing on my career. I'm ready to start seeing some stability. I'm ready to start having some normality and a consistent financial income and all these things that we all do crave at different stages of our lives, or that a lot of us crave at different stages of our lives. You can start to think, okay, so that's the indicator. Also, when you're passionate about a career choice, that also really helps you make that decision. For me, once I started, okay, I'm going to do my master's degree, it's going to help me settle. It really took away the anxiety of, do I need to be in another country or should I stay in Australia? I found something that I was really passionate about and I could really settle emotionally into, which was really, really great. But once you have that idea, then you're more likely to be ready to come home. And then I would ask yourself, just because I'm returning back home, do I have to be living in this city? Like you said, town. Maybe a town doesn't work for me anymore. I've seen the world. I've seen all of this. I'm going to feel like, what the fuck, if I move back home? Or maybe not. I don't know. So you got to ask yourself these questions. So maybe come home, stay home with your parents, get settled, as far as find your equilibrium again, and then get really clear on a city that fits you at home in Australia? Could that be the closest city to where your family lives? Could it be a different city altogether? Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, whatever the fuck. But think, what city, like after all the life experiences I've had, after all this travel, after everything, what city suits me and my lifestyle the best? And why? And then start imagining yourself living in that city, being like, I could do this career here. I've got these options here. I could do this. I could start networking. I could find friends. You've been independent for years. I'm sure you have no fucking problem making friends. Normally people that are doing seasons overseas and traveling like that, like make friends in a fucking heartbeat. So that won't be a problem for you. So then you start thinking, okay, and then this is what helps you get excited for your future back at home. Because if you're thinking, the only exciting thing about going back home is seeing the people that I miss, then you're going to see the people you miss, but then that internal, what am I doing for myself, that personal side of you that always needs to be listened to is going to be screaming, being like, what am I doing? You know, so I think get excited about something back at home. You figured out this is the exact career I want to do. Now I can start getting excited about the path I want to go down. Maybe you've already done the course. Are you just putting it on hold? Maybe you can do a course. Maybe then you pick the perfect city for you. Then you think, hey, what would I need to live in that city? How much money would I need saved? Where would I rent? Would I share with someone? Would I blah, blah, blah. Then you start imagining what that life could be like for the next stage. And then you feel a lot calmer about going home. Then you'll probably want to stay in Europe maybe another year altogether, because you're like, I now have a bit of a fleshed out plan of what my life could realistically look like. I'll be home for a few months to just balance out, and then I'm reestablishing myself maybe in a brand new city, maybe not, and I'm like figuring out my career path and all of that moving forward. But I can tell you right now, once you start to really set those roots down back at home, that's when you start like really heading in a completely different trajectory. Like, I'm trying to get, stability in my career. I'm trying to go up the ranks in my career. I'm also building on this, and I'm trying to save, and I'm buying this and I'm buying that. You're way less likely to be like, oh, just throw it all away and I'm going to go overseas again. So stay there, basically. Have the time of your life, because in the scheme of things, another year is not that long. I'm just presuming it's another year. But then when you look back later on in life, you're like, yeah. I'm glad I milked that time for what it was fucking worth, because then I really got it out of my system, and I can look back and not be like, oh, I wish I had stayed longer. You look back being like, that was epic. That was fucking epic. And I did it, and it was just unreal. Okay? But I love this for you. I just love that you're there. I want to be there. Lol. I'm fucking so heavily pregnant, and I'm like, get me to Ibiza. Okay. One more.
Hi Alexis, I'm hoping you can share some light on my current situation. I live in a small coastal town of Victoria. I moved there about 4 years ago after COVID, potentially a reaction to that. It wasn't very thought through and it happened very quickly. I've wanted to move back to the city pretty much every year that I've lived on the coast, but I bought a house and I wanted to commit to something and set myself up for the future. I'm only actually finding now that I'm feeling quite content there. I'm living in my house. I've got a job that I really love, and I'm quite happy. But within that, I'm noticing the gaps in my life. I don't have many friends on the surf coast. I know a lot of people. I just haven't made those deeper connections. I'm 37. I'm single. I haven't met anyone in those 4 years I've lived there. There's not much opportunity for dating, and I'm finding that I'm spending majority of my time alone. I'm wanting to move back to the city now to reconnect with friends and to hopefully date. I just wanted to hear your advice on, am I romanticizing the city and what it has to offer, or am I self-sabotaging because I'm feeling content? What are your thoughts? Help, please.
Great question. Great fucking question. You are absolutely not self-sabotaging. You are, I think this is, and you're also not romanticizing the city. You've lived in the city, so you know exactly what it has to offer and what it's like. That's the beauty of it. You have that lived experience. It's not like, sometimes we come up with this idea of like, oh my God, I'm going to move to this country or this place, and you just create this movie in your head without ever actually experiencing it, and you're like, I don't know the reality of what it's like to live there. Or you holiday somewhere once and then you think, I could live here, not understanding how like logistically fucked so many things are about living there, and there'd be so, because you haven't lived there. For you, it's different because you have lived in the city, and not only have you lived in the city, you've dated in that city, you've got friends that live in that city. So it's a big, and rightly so, it's a very strong pull. And as you know, because it's knowledge that you know about that city, okay? What would I do in your position? I would move back. I just feel like you're saying the things that you talk about are really fair things. Like, firstly, you enjoyed living in the city. It's something that you kind of are looking forward to. I think you're avoiding it because you feel like you're throwing in the towel. You're feeling, oh, like I've moved, I've done this thing to establish myself, I've done all of this, but I'm kind. But the thing is, your real connections are in the city. You want to start dating. You're like, the prospects are dire here right now, and I really would like to put myself out there and start dating. And I know that it was better when I was in the city. But you're not throwing in the towel. It has been a success. You've been there for 4 years. That's very successful. You made a call, you moved, you've reestablished your life. You've proven to yourself that you're resilient, you're adaptable, you can have a great experience, you can build a life, and you can also readapt. That's the beauty of it. I've had my 4 years here. It's been great. I've gotten what I've needed to get out of it. I can return later in my life if I want to. But right now, the things of greatest value, I don't have. And they are within my reach, just not here. So if I stay here, is it because I'm being stubborn and I don't want to be like, oh, well, she's given up on this lifestyle and she's trying to tell? Or is it me just being like, well, for the next stage of my life where connection is so important, where time with my friends is so important, like that's where my group is, dating matters to me because I actually want to meet someone. It's not happening here. I would go. I don't think you're romanticizing it. I think you've thought about it properly. I think the way you've processed this is very rational thinking, and I would do it. I would go back. I would, live life there, and you have that really awesome knowing inside you that you are capable of moving somewhere different and starting your life up and doing it. You have that capability. You have it in you. You know that you've got the skills, the life skills to move and rebuild if you want. So you move to the city. Worst case scenario, a year or 2 years down the line, you're like, not feeling it. You now know, being like, well, I can just move again because I've done it before and it was a great success, so I can do it again. Okay? So yeah, my answer to you is bite the fucking bullet, move back to the city, and really hone in on those connections, because that is so fucking important in life. Like, to me, there's nothing more important than a really healthy connection in my life. So this is a really, really good question, and go for it. Go for gold. And send another voice message in with your updates. Guys, anyone who's sent a voice message in thus far, please send in updated voice messages based on did you end up taking my advice? Did you go the other way and not take my advice? How has it panned out? Better than you thought? Worse than you thought? Where did you find yourself? Did you learn lessons along the way? I'd love to hear. So please, with this romanticizing the city, if you do it, send in another message and let me know, because I think that would be a good move for you, genuinely. Guys, thank you so much for sending in your voice messages. I love hearing them. They're the best. And that is all for today's head noise. As always, remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to your brain. Don't take shit from anyone, and especially don't take shit from yourself. Danke.